In this world, we are taught one simple truth from the very beginning of life. Without oxygen, nothing survives. Humans last only a few minutes. Most animals, perhaps a little longer. And then, everything stops. But deep within the hidden corners of nature, beyond what we normally observe, there exists a different kind of life. A life that does not fully depend on oxygen the way we do. A life that can slow itself down to the point where breathing almost does not matter anymore. And in some cases, a life that can survive without oxygen for far longer than we ever thought possible. Not by resisting nature, but by surrendering to it in the most extreme way imaginable. Tonight, we explore that world. The world of creatures that challenge one of the most fundamental rules of biology. Far beneath the surface of rivers, oceans, frozen lakes, and even inside dry soil that looks completely lifeless, life still exists. And some of these organisms possess an ability that feels almost unreal. They can stop themselves. Not in the sense of dying, but in the sense of pressing pause on life itself. One of the most astonishing examples of this ability comes from a microscopic creature, so small that millions could exist in a single drop of water, yet so powerful in survival that it has been sent into space and survived extreme radiation, freezing temperatures, and complete dehydration. This creature is known as the tardigrade, or more famously, the water bear. At first glance, it looks almost insignificant. A tiny, slow-moving organism with no threatening features. No teeth, no claws, no armor. And yet, when its environment becomes too extreme, when water disappears, when oxygen becomes unavailable, when temperatures drop or rise beyond survivable limits, it does something extraordinary. It enters a state called cryptobiosis. In this state, the tardigrade shuts down almost all biological activity. Its metabolism drops to less than 0.01%. Its body loses nearly all water content. And most importantly, it no longer relies on oxygen in any meaningful way. It becomes something between life and non-life. A suspended existence. A biological pause button. And it can remain in this state for years, even decades in some conditions, waiting silently until the world becomes suitable again. And when conditions return, it does not come back to life. It simply resumes it, as if no time had passed at all. But tardigrades are only the beginning. In the cold waters of North America and parts of Europe, another creature demonstrates a different kind of oxygen survival strategy. A fish that appears completely ordinary, yet hides a biochemical secret that seems almost impossible. This is the crucian carp. When winter arrives and lakes freeze over, a thick layer of ice seals the surface like a lid. Oxygen slowly becomes trapped and depleted beneath the ice. Most fish cannot survive this condition. They suffocate as oxygen disappears. But the crucian carp does something remarkable. It switches its entire metabolism. Instead of relying on oxygen-based respiration, it begins producing energy through anaerobic pathways, a process that, in most animals, would be unsustainable for long periods. Even more surprisingly, it converts the byproducts of this process into ethanol. Alcohol. Yes, this fish can literally produce alcohol inside its own body to survive freezing, oxygen-deprived environments. And it can do this for months beneath the ice, alive, functional, waiting for spring. Deeper in muddy rivers and oxygen-poor environments, another ancient-looking creature survives in its own unique way: the lungfish. The lungfish is a living bridge between aquatic and terrestrial life. Unlike most fish, It has lungs. And when its environment dries out, it does not die. Instead, it buries itself into the mud. It secretes a protective mucus cocoon around its body and enters a deep, dormant state. In this state, its need for oxygen becomes almost irrelevant. Some species of lungfish can survive like this for months. In extreme cases, even years. Hidden beneath hardened earth, waiting for rain, waiting for change. In Arctic and Antarctic waters, life faces another challenge. Not just lack of oxygen, but extreme cold and seasonal isolation beneath thick ice sheets. Here, fish survive by dramatically slowing down their metabolism. Everything becomes minimal. Heart rates drop. Energy consumption is reduced. And oxygen usage is stretched to its absolute limit. Life becomes slow, almost frozen in time.
Still alive, still present, still enduring. On land, similar survival strategies appear in unexpected places. Freshwater turtles, especially those in cold regions, show an incredible ability to survive without oxygen for extended periods. When winter freezes lakes and rivers, these turtles become trapped beneath the ice. They cannot surface to breathe. But instead of panicking, their bodies adapt. Their heart rate slows dramatically. Their metabolism drops to an extreme low, and they switch to anaerobic energy production, a biochemical survival mode that allows them to endure months without oxygen under certain conditions. Motionless, silent, alive. Even at the microscopic level, life has evolved to not just survive without oxygen, but to reject it entirely. Some bacteria are obligate anaerobes. For them, oxygen is not necessary. It is toxic. They thrive in deep sediments, swamps, and oxygen-free environments where most life would perish instantly. In their world, oxygen is not life-giving. It is lethal. What makes all of this even more extraordinary is one simple truth. None of these organisms are breaking the laws of biology. There is no magic here, only adaptation, only evolution pushing life to its absolute limits. For humans, oxygen deprivation leads to rapid failure of the brain and body. Minutes matter. Seconds become critical. But for these creatures, survival is not about resisting the absence of oxygen. It is about adapting to it. By slowing down, by shutting down, by entering a state where time itself seems to lose meaning. And this raises a profound question. What does it truly mean to be alive? Is life defined by constant activity? Or can life also exist in stillness, in suspension, in waiting? A tardigrade may be lying dormant in a grain of dust right now. A fish may be waiting beneath frozen water. A lungfish may be sealed in mud, dreaming through years of drought. A turtle may be resting under ice, conserving every molecule of energy. And bacteria may be thriving in darkness where oxygen will never reach. All of them speaking the same silent language. The language of survival. The language of adaptation. The language of life refusing to end. And when we return to our own world of constant motion, technology, noise, and breath, we begin to understand something quietly powerful. Life is not defined by how much we breathe, but by how far we can adapt when breathing is no longer an option. Because somewhere in the microscopic dust of this planet, life is sleeping, waiting, enduring, without oxygen, without panic, without surrender. Only survival, only time, only life in its most patient form. And perhaps one day, humanity will learn from them how to slow down, how to endure extremes, how to survive not by fighting nature, but by becoming flexible enough to move with it.
Because in the end, even without oxygen, life always finds a way.